Next week, we've got a bunch of smoked liver that we've been making, which is really, really good. Cooking in the smoker under the pastrami. It's awesome. It like confits the liver and the pastrami, the brisket fat and the spices and everything. So this dish will be like thick cut rye, schmear chopped liver from the livers, the smoked livers. And then you'll have crispy wings and feet and heads on the toast and a crack-a-lure fudgy yolk duck egg that we're gonna spice and.
And how do you come up with something like that? Like, how are you like?
Well,
oh,
we gotta eat the whole animal. I didn't come up with any of this, man. Our ancestors, this is what they've been subsisting on for forever, man.
Hey everybody, I'm Joe Bauer, a food and travel writer based in Berlin, and we're back with another episode of me showing off a place I really like for you. Now, if you saw my recent video about a trip I took to Ohio, Pennsylvania, then you know I was recently back in the United States visiting my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. And while in Cleveland, I met up with my friend Jeremy Umansky, who is the chef and founder of Larder Delicatessen and Bakery. I've chatted with Jeremy a bunch of times about Jewish food, and it just never gets old. So I want to take you all behind the scenes and have Jeremy show you how they're bringing Jewish tradition into a 21st century deli.
My name is Jeremy Umansky, and we're inside Larder Delicatessen in Cleveland, Ohio. Right, we got Egon here. Look, he's got a mushroom, and I do the same thing as Egon. I have those collections too. So while this may be a little risque for some groups with the name of this is a miso made from gefilte fish and the milchitz. When we get like milchitz herring to make pickled herring, so we take that same organ out of other fish, which is carp and walleye and perch out of the lake. It's the sperm sac instead of the egg sac. So we actually use the ejaculate from these fish and the gefilte fish to make something that's similar to a miso. And so now when I want salt or flavoring umami to layer into the gefilte fish, I just can incorporate this back into it. So why Jewish deli in Cleveland, Ohio, of all places? So one thing to keep in mind, Cleveland has one of the largest, America has the largest Jewish population in the world outside of Israel, right? Out of that, Cleveland is one of the larger populations after the major metropolitan cities, Miami, New York City, LA. Cleveland's like fourth, fifth, or sixth largest population. There's 80,000 Jews that live in Cleveland. So there's a lot of people to feed. So why not a Jewish deli here, right? And I remember, and I believe Larder was already open and we were working on it when the documentary Deli Man came out. Someone that was maybe 2015, 2016 or so. And just after seeing that too, and seeing I am a member of a race of humanity that is nearly extinct. And here comes this documentary that shows that like the beloved cuisine in my new home, my family's new home in America, is going extinct. Yeah. And I was like, no. The other thing was too, so many chefs get complacent. And you create something great and you try to keep that standard, and over time things fall off, there isn't change, your food gets stagnant, these sort of things. And I felt that was one of the overlying big issues within like Jewish deli cuisine, Jewish, food in general, wherever it may be, this stagnancy, right? Not using fresh ingredients because we were all so poor we could only afford canned ingredients in the new country. Like getting away from these, understanding that like there's a quality standard we can impart to our food. Like gefilte fish, nobody really gets it besides us. I mean, we get it. It can be fantastically delicious. It can be the nicest seafood-based terrine you've ever had. That rivals anything like a French chef would make with lobster and shrimp and, in a loaf and slice it really nice. Yeah. So pushing to make my food, myself as a chef, like just do the best I can do all the time, right? And not looking at what other people are doing my best and hoping that other people are like, let's do our best too. This is pastrami. So we did incorporate some chickpeas in here. But this is an amino paste like miso that is made from pastrami. Wow. Tell me, and it's spreadable, it's smearable. Like this on a bagel with a fried egg, like tell me that isn't just
That sounds
a
like
Jewish delight.
it seems like just like a mad scientist lab sometimes when I come here.
I mean, sometimes that's we look at it as the conversation around food waste is dramatically, biblically flawed. Because do you want to eat trash? Do you want to eat trash and waste? No, nobody does. So when we say we're going to take food waste and turn it into food, we're telling people we're going to take our trash, our byproducts, and feed it to them because they can't afford prime cuts and all sorts of expensive foods. This is the wrong conversation.
Yeah.
We need to talk about eliminating food waste, okay? Closed loop systems. We can't be using words trash and waste and this sort of thing in this conversation. So with that, we want to show people that organic ingredients can just continually transform with very simple means. A little bit of enzymes, some salt, maybe a little bit of acid, and we can create foods that are so unique and special to where we are and what we're doing that you can't find them anywhere else in the world. Because you can't take Cleveland, Ohio and put it in the middle of, name someplace in the world, Zaire. It is no longer Cleveland, Ohio.
Right.
And everything about it, its stories, its people, all the ingredients, it all changes.
Yeah.
So you can only get these foods here.
Yeah.
And we want every chef in the world to be able to create a world-class dining experience where when their guests come in, they can only experience what that chef is doing in that place at that time. There is so much in Eastern European and European Jewish food traditions that got lost through migration and the diaspora. We used to have some of the best charcuterie makers in the world were Jews in Alsace in France. And they didn't work with pork. They worked with duck, beef, and goose. And they made things that rivaled things like prosciutto and bacon and all these things. But we lost that at some point, you know? And I am striving to create the best tasting and most delicious food I can make. There is only one answer. There is this mold called Aspergillus oryzae that literally can make our food more delicious on a molecular level. So seeing that even though it's this Japanese thing, or when I came to it, I understood it as a Japanese thing, I now know it is a humanity-wide thing. So many cultures have their own names for Kojis, use it whether you're in Indonesia or India or, you know, Bengal. Pick a place from India all the way to Japan and from Russia down to basically Australia. That whole part of the world, everybody uses Kojis. They all have their different names and different dishes they do it in. So kind of realizing that all these people use it to make what they were cooking the most delicious version of itself, I was like, why wouldn't we do that with any other cuisine? And if I want to make gefilte fish a mass appeal food that Hindus enjoy, and Catholics enjoy, and atheists enjoy, and people who don't have any labels enjoy, and people who have the most labels enjoy, I need Koji to do that. It's pretty simple, right? Carp is a delicious fish, but on its own it can only go so far. So when we can use this mold to actually on a molecular level change the dynamic of how things taste and how they're registered on our taste bud, why wouldn't we? So we mix it with a black spored Koji, so a black mold. It's the same mold that on commercial scales they use to produce citric acid that's then used in like your Sour Patch Kids and all those candies and stuff. So we use it, we mix it with this curd, and then we roll it up and then we let it dry out, we hang it. So go ahead, try this, Joe. It's kind of blue-esque. That's kind of...
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, so it's up front, it's creamy, it's got all the blue, and then, but wait, it's going to finish savory like soy sauce.
Yeah.
These are brisket rillettes, pastrami rillettes. So what we do is when we trim the fat on the brisket, it's got no use. We can put it in a grind, we can render it, we can do certain things, but we grind it, we render the fat, we cook it about 200 degrees overnight, and we're left with this bag of like beautiful yellow fat and all of the coagulated proteins and the stuff that was in these liquids and the fat, little bits of muscle. It's technically called purge. That's what the meat industry word for it is.
Yeah.
It's the liquid you find in the bottom of your tray of meat that they put the little absorbent pad in. So there's a lot of that, but that is just a liquid with protein in it. All right, same thing that is in the muscle cells. It's just in a liquid. So we can cook the fat, all that separates out. We take what's left of the protein coagulation and we mix it with pulled pastrami and we whip it into a rillette. We add a little bit of fat and it's just smooth, spreadable. And then we push them into these little mushroom molds, and then we dip them in the rendered beef fat. So this is 100% brisket with every byproduct, every loss that could have come out of that brisket at some point, we've been able to keep in it and create a food that it's all there. So there's absolutely no waste from start to finish. Healing the world, like we can't just take and not get back, right? Like if we're gonna take, we have to use all that we take, right? Judaism and like animist philosophies, like Native American philosophy, like they all line up in this essence of like tikkun olam, right? So yeah, we're gonna put heads and feet on the menu, but we're gonna use science and technology and modern sensibilities. Like we can use a pressure cooker to cook these, and now when we finish them on the dish, the bones are soft enough to eat. You eat the whole thing.
After yet another successful visit to Larder and getting a little noshy in myself, Jeremy leaves me with a few choice words about the future of Ashkenazi Jewish cuisine.
The only way that we're going to survive is if we have modern sensibilities about us and contemporary essences. We need that. That's how we've survived this long, being obliterated across the planet.